Well, we're starting off in Parliament. Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quartey is today facing the Privileges Committee. The Ayasu Central Member of Parliament, together with two other MPs, were referred for disciplinary sanctions by Speaker Alban Bagbin for failing to show up in the lawmaking chamber for more than 15 parliamentary sittings. According to the initial schedule, Domi Kwabinya MP Sarah Jasavo, together with Kennedy Ejapong, who were widely criticized for failing to show up in Parliament throughout the parts of the last session, they are scheduled as well to take their turns in the coming days on the matter. However, we understand that there are some changes to that timeline. We'll get all of that for you, but first let's get to Parliament, where my colleague Parker Wilson has been monitoring developments for us. Parker, it's good to be having you at this moment. We know that that meeting is underway. First of all, even before we get into the details, why are there some changes to the timelines as we're hearing from Parliament?
Well, Blessed, thank you very much for having me on pause. Now, the changes I'll tell you shortly. And in fact, I'll let the ranking member on the committee, Kweku Rickett-Hagan, tell us about why there's been some changes with regards to Sarah Joseph appearing before the committee tomorrow. But of course, I heard you say that today it was the turn of the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Henry Quartey. Indeed, he did appear before the committee, but it took an interesting turn. I understand that when he appeared before the committee, there were some kind of pleasantries between him and his colleagues, and nothing serious really happened at the committee. The ranking member is here with me. Honorable, thank you very much for your time. Yeah. You met the Greater Accra Regional Minister. I understand there was just a pleasantries. Nothing serious happened in the committee. One would want to know why Henry Quartey appeared before the committee, and yet there was no serious issues to discuss as far as his case is concerned.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers and your listeners. I wouldn't belittle pleasantries as not being important. Obviously, we have to break the ice, to start any serious conversation. Right. As you rightly know, we had a meeting yesterday to discuss the modalities and had a proposed timetable, which meant that Honorable Henry Quartey comes in today. Right. And then followed by Honorable Safo, and then by 31st on Honorable Kennedy Japan. He did appear today, but as you know, parliamentary matters can be very fluid. It just happened that we have some delegation here to see the Right Honorable Speaker. I think they were in the chamber the other day from Canada, and the Speaker has a number of activities with them. In the absence of the Speaker is the First Deputy Speaker, who sits in the chair, or the Second Deputy Speaker. Unfortunately, the Second Deputy Speaker is not around. He's on an assignment somewhere directed by the Right Honorable Speaker. So it was advertised that our meeting should start around 11 o'clock, advertised in our other paper. At 11 o'clock, it happens that the Speaker was in a meeting with the First Deputy Speaker. So we asked our clerk office to put the meeting to 12 o'clock. Honorable Henry Quartey appeared 12 o'clock.
At 12 o'clock?
Yeah, he was here there before that. I was actually the first person in the room, so I was there at 11, and he appeared, not too long after that, as the time we had given him. Now what happened was that there was going to be a transition in the chamber where the Right Honorable Speaker will have to give way for the First Deputy Speaker to chair. So then our meeting Henry Quartey would be problematic, because by our constitution is the chairman who can only chair in that hearing. Okay. So I'm ranking, but I cannot chair committee. And him not being available as a result of his functions in the chamber made it a bit problematic. So what we did was that since he was in and the Speaker was there, the Honorable First Deputy Speaker asked the Speaker for 30 minutes. Therefore, the Speaker should continue to chair for 30 minutes to deal with matters of privileges. So we went to the Privileges Committee, and we had a quorum, and we met our colleague, and it transpired, as I have just said to you, that the chairman had to go back into the chamber on a moment notice to take over from the Speaker. Now, on the other side, and that is the Honorable Henry Quartey, it was suggested to him that we meet at 2 o'clock. And he too, he's a Greater Accra minister. He's also got ministerial functions at 2 o'clock and also traveling out of the country. So then we have to come to a consensus that we have to give this hearing an ample time. And we couldn't do that on that
within the 30 minutes.
Within the 30 minutes. So then the right thing as a consensus was to adjourn and wait for the return of the honorable member. So
you've rescheduled him for another day?
Yes, but
so when is this?
We haven't firmed the date because we have to discuss that with myself and the chairman and give the clerks a date, because the reason being that he is traveling, he is indicating he will come in at a particular time and all that. So we need to look at, everybody.
And that wouldn't be next week?
Well, he's back next week, so it could be any time after he's come back into the country.
I see.
But
now I've also
as soon as we have a date.
I see. But I've also been receiving information about Adjosafo's appearance before the committee. In fact, tomorrow I am told that the committee is not sitting or probably hearing the case of Adjosafo, and the reason is the chairman will be away. Why is the chairman going to be away when there's an important meeting like this to have in Parliament?
Well, we were brought here by the Ghanaian people, to represent them here. And we came through political parties. And it just happened. I mean, I don't do these timetables, neither does the first deputy speaker, that our brothers on the other side are having their regional elections, I believe.
Right.
So he communicated to us after having found out, the itinerary of their party, that he will not actually be available for that meeting. But as you know, I mean, I cannot chair. I'm available, but I cannot chair that meeting. And then the constituents and the party that brings us here, that process is also important. So
he will be away because of the Ashanti regional elections.
Well, he's away. I believe, is one of them, but he's away from tomorrow. He's not here tomorrow.
I see. But have you communicated to Adjosafo, because she was scheduled to appear before the committee? Now that the chairman will be away and then the committee will not be sitting, have you communicated to her?
That will be communicated by the clerk through the chairman. The chairman will have to inform the clerk, and then they will, through the same process as, they will communicate with her.
This means the committee has met a major setback, and what it means is that you will not be able to meet your deadline. Or you think with all these major setback, you can still meet the deadline, because your deadline is next week Friday to submit your report before the plenary.
Well, in life, we plan to do things tomorrow, but nobody can guarantee tomorrow, or nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow. I mean, we had, as I said, provisional timetable as to how these proceedings are going to be conducted. Unfortunately, we have had these challenges to do with speakership in terms of who sits in the chair and when, as a result of the delegation who are here, and that's also equally important. Unfortunately, as I said, if the second deputy speaker were to be here, it would be telling you a different story. And then, as it happened, tomorrow too, this is the problem that we are encountering. So, I mean, there is nothing that I can do about it. That's been the communication from the chairman, that he is actually not going to be available. I cannot chair. So ours is to go back to the speaker and possibly ask for an extension, which is going to be the likely scenario. Because if Honorable Henry, even if we're able to meet the other people within the next few days, Honorable Kennedy Japan on the 31st and all that, it is likely that we will eat into the second week in terms of our hearing.
So you can't meet the deadline that's given to you by the speaker?
That's how it looks like. I mean, unless something, miraculous happen.
There are those who are saying that all this scheming and shenanigans perhaps is only to shield your colleagues because they are members of parliament, you are calling a member of parliament, so you are bringing all these kind of excuses just to let them off the hook.
No, I wouldn't accept that. I mean, I have heard that, and, it's just basically, people are obviously saying what they believe. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but nobody is entitled to their own facts. The fact is what I have given you on what is actually happening on the ground. I don't think that, we were put on the Privileges Committee to shield anybody. The Privileges Committee is like a court of parliament, and members of parliament are put on it. And it is clear by our constitution and our standing orders, the functions of the Privileges Committee, and that is for matters of privileges, whether it is in-house or external people, to be brought to Privileges Committee. So this has been there. It wasn't designed yesterday that we are going to meet or we have decided that we will meet our own colleagues. But the Constitution suggests that if there is such contempt, it is the Privileges Committees who will have to, to listen to the matter. So this is one of them. And it's not the first time that a colleague is being, colleagues are being listened to in that manner. The issue of fairness is already provided by the Constitution. Actually, when you are absent from Parliament 15 days, the Constitution is clear. You vacate your seat. That is something, and it's on you to vacate your seat, unless you have reasons why you should not. That is why the Constitution and our standing orders provide that fairness, the opportunity of you getting a hearing from the Privileges Committee. So to say that the Privileges Committee, because they are our colleagues and all that, the laws are clear, and we will follow the law to the...
Will you be lenient with your colleagues, or you think you can assure the people who are watching this afternoon that, and this is my final question to you, that you'll be thorough, you will ensure that every question is asked to get the best out of your colleagues?
I can assure you of that. I mean, as I said, we have rules and regulations that we work with. If we don't follow the rules and regulations as we have it, then basically we are weakening the institution of Parliament. So we take our jobs seriously. As a ranking, I take my job very seriously. The rules will be followed. We all sign up to the rules. We know what the consequences are. What has happened to them today can happen to me tomorrow. So if we don't go by what we have, then in the future, the system becomes an abusive one. And so there will be a fair hearing. As I said, there could be legitimate reasons why the honorable members did not come for the 15 days, though they should have sought permission before that. But things can happen. You can fall in a coma or whatever. That will not allow you to be able to be here for that 15 days. So ours is to hear them. If they have the evidence, if you come in and said, you've been absent for 15 days, so no, I haven't been, then we've got to do some reconciliation with the votes and proceedings. If we find out that what you are saying is right, you have no case to answer. If it happens that you've been absent for 15 days, it's like court, guilty with explanation. So what is your explanation? You tender in the evidence, and then we will look at the evidence, substantiate that evidence. If there are any doubts in the evidence, we will have to look at the authenticity of that. So all these things could even eat up the 2 weeks, depending on what happens. If it becomes a straightforward, I was absent for 50 days, these are my records, everything is intact, finish. If authentication and other things need to be coming in, depending on, I don't know what is going to be provided to us, then we will have to look into that. When we finish, we will have to submit the report as requested by the Speaker to the Speaker. Okay. So it's a straightforward thing, and I can assure you and assure Ghanaian people that I will do my job to the best of my ability. And I can stand in as the ranking member to say that I believe that my colleagues will do the same. So
if you had to recommend the dismissal or the expulsion or the declaration of a seat of member of parliament, you would do that?
Absolutely. Because this is what we sign up to. I mean, if I have been absent for 15 days and I don't have any reason, the decent thing for me to do is to resign. And I can tell you that I will do so. So if it happens to anybody, you can't sign up for rules of a game and decide to play with the rules of another game. So you sign up to the rules of the game, you play by the rules.
Honorable, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Quartey Rekete is the ranking member on the Privileges Committee, and he's clear that he's going to do his job diligently, irrespective of whose ox is God, because he's been taxed to ensure that the right thing is done.
Well, but
here in
Becca,
Parliament.
if you can hear me right now,
Blessed, the committee is clear.
Right, there are concerns about why the media has not been involved in this process. Can we take the opportunity to find out from the chairperson of the committee? Or Rekete as well?
Well, so that's correct. Yesterday, when the committee met, as part of the modalities, they were going to look at whether or not the media should participate thoroughly in these processes, or rather it should be an in-camera. Well, of course, we still do have the ranking here. Honorable, yesterday, your modalities, we want to know why the media has been kicked out of this whole privileges committee hearing, because Ghanaians want to know. The Domi Kwabena constituents want to understand why their MP has failed them for 15 days and has not represented them. The Ascent South constituent want to know, and then here in Greater Accra, the Ayawasi Central constituent want to know. We, the media, are to serve as a proponent to these individuals, yet we are not part of this. Why? What was the reason for asking the media not to cover this program?
And Parker, if you've been kicked out, you will not be sitting here with me.
No, I'm talking about the meeting. Not
Well, it's an extension, right. And that's what we're talking about. I believe that I remember actually that a few interviews that I had before we went into the meeting, right. I did say that obviously we are going to the meeting to discuss the modalities, which includes whether it should be in camera or we should make it public hearing. Right. Now. I said, if that's what the public is asking for, then when we get there, various opinions will come and we'll make a decision on that. When we went to the meeting, I was not of any view whether it should be public hearing or I was open to anything. What the people want is, I thought, what the people should get. But when we went to the meeting, there are other school of thought that, look, we have heard that some of the defense or the evidence that some of our colleagues, some or all of them I have, was of a medical nature. So, and you know, medical things can be sometimes be private. Yeah, I do understand that people were elected to, represent their constituency, and the constituencies have the right to know, why they have not represented them or not. But then hearings of this nature can be very fluid. If somebody is discussing their medical issues and all that, for you to be able to give them the opportunity to be honest with you, if they are on camera telling the whole nation, might be a bit different. And then you cannot put them on camera. And then when they are saying something that you think of private or sensitive nature, you will tell the cameras that they should stop and then, do on and off. It's going to interrupt, proceedings. So we thought that the best way to handle it, and this was by consensus. We didn't vote on this. By consensus, that it would be better we do in camera, so that if it's medical stuff and things that we are going to discuss, people at least will have the decency, of giving them the privacy that they deserve. Obviously, when we finish with everything else, if there's an evidence why another honorable member should be spared of his seat being vacated, then it will come in a way of, this person came in and said he was suffering from this and was at the hospital, did an operation, and that for that reason we are satisfied that, though he was not able to come in to get a permission in advance, but we think that his case is legitimate. And whatever reason why any of them did not appear would be made known.
So essentially, the reason we are not having a public hearing with the 3 absentee MPs is purely based on medical reason.
Because that is what we have heard. And I think it is a public knowledge that at least 1 or 2 of them, we know they've had some proceeding, medical, And then, as I said, Honorable Kennedy Japon's case, he came to ask us to extend his time. So looking at his availability, that's why we put him there. And we know that it is on medical, medical grounds. So I don't know, but obviously maybe he's coming to explain that because I had a medical condition or whatever. So that's why we have, decided to respectfully reserve that or spare them the idea of having to come and tell the whole Ghana their medical condition.
Thank you very much. So, Blessed, purely based on medical reasons, they don't want the medical records of the NPs be made public for people to know, probably if they were absent based on medical reasons. And that's what the ranking member, Rickett Kweku Hagan, has been telling me this afternoon. And so it is clear that the 2 weeks upon resumption of Parliament for them to submit their report will not happen, because for now, as we speak, they are yet to even meet one of the NPs for the interrogation. And so next week we are told that Kennedy Ohene Japan, he hasn't so far altered his agreement with the committee. He will be appearing before the committee next week. And so even though if you look at the schedule originally, he was scheduled to be the last person to have met the committee, now he's going to be the first to meet the committee. And subsequently, the committee will now decide when to meet the Greater Accra Regional Minister, namely Quartey, and later also the Dom Kwabena MP, Sarah Adjosafo. So the Privilege Committee will not be able to meet the deadline as given to them by the Speaker, and that the chairman has said that they will write officially to the Speaker asking for an extension because they are still not ready with putting together the report and, of course, interrogating the members of Parliament.
And Pak, I'm sure that you've seen the MP Henry Quartey after the session today. What was his mood like anyway?
Well, he's very cheerful. In fact, I saw him in the chamber yesterday and today too. I saw him around. He doesn't seem bothered at all. In fact, when this matter came before Parliament on recess in the first week of April, we had opportunity to engage him and interact with him briefly. And he was clear in his mind that it wasn't deliberate that he had to be off from duties for the 15 sitting the rule, and that he's not bothered. He has every evidence to show why he did not appear or show up in Parliament. And so when he's called upon to meet the Privileges Committee, he has everything documented which he believes would exonerate him. And mind you, the Minority Chief Whip, Montaka, has been telling me that the members of Parliament should be accommodating because nobody is voted into Parliament to come and absent himself. There might be legitimate reasons as to why people do absent themselves from Parliament. And so he is expecting his colleagues on the Privileges Committee to be more lenient with the 3 NPP MPs who appear before them. And so for Henry Quartey, he's not bothered. He doesn't really care what's going to happen because he is confident in his mind that with the evidence he has, if it is tabled before the Privileges Committee, they will exonerate him and recommend that indeed he was absent legitimately, and so there wouldn't be the need for the committee to recommend that the Speaker should declare his seat vacant.
Definitely there's a lot of development to this. We'll be monitoring that because her party members as well have indicated their readiness to declare her seat as vacant. Have you cited any MPs from her side as well, and what indications are you getting from them?
Well, so the MPP MPs, they are sharply divided over particularly the issue of Sarah Adjosafo. There were those who believe that the Member of Parliament for Dom Kwabena is taking the party for granted. She has disrespected the structures of the party, disrespected the president, the appointing authority, and the leadership of Parliament. And so there has to be a bold decision to kick her out from Parliament. And there are those who have also argued that there were some medical reasons as to why the MP hasn't been available. And so they have to be accommodating. So the NPP MPs themselves are sharply divided over whether or not the seat of Dom Kwabena MP should be declared vacant. In fact, some of them have argued that it is only a small screen. The 2 MPP MPs who've been referred to the committee, i.e. Kennedy Ohene Japan and Henry Quartey, is just a small screen. The real target as to why the 3 MPs have been referred is because of Sarah Adjosafo and the fact that she has disrespected some of the leadership. And you recall that the Minority Chief Whip called her out publicly on Joy FM when we interviewed him some months ago. And so because of some of these things, people think that she has to be kicked out of Parliament. But there are those, as I've said, who maintain they should give her some time. She'll come around. They should talk to her. They still need a Dom Kwabena seat. Now Parliament is struggling with the numbers. They still need her seat. They still need her number in terms of voting and all of that. So the division will go on until she returns to Ghana. In fact, as we speak, we don't know that she has arrived because of her appearance tomorrow. We were told she was going to arrive today. But since her hearing has been postponed, well, we don't know when she will be arriving in the country. So when she does, that is when we would find some kind of settlement and calmness within the ranks of the majority grouping. But of course, the minority side, well, some don't really, they're indifferent about it. Of course, you know Muntaka's position indicating that the MP shouldn't be referred to the Privileges Committee, and others are very indifferent about it. As to whether Adjustafo will be sacked or not, they believe it is in the bosom of the appointing authority, which is the President, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Well, so that's my colleague Parker Wilson joining us from Parliament and giving us the very latest on this. We'll be bringing you some updates as and when we have that.